Hey there, A's Day fans. Welcome to our newest edition of A's Day, talking everything A's as we are in the full swing of the 2025 season. Baseball has officially kicked off its home slate in Sacramento. Unfortunately, it was not the result the green and gold were hoping for as the Cubs came into town with their hot bats and completed a pretty dominant three-game sweep. We're here today talking, recapping about what happened in each game, share some thoughts on what to look ahead for what's next on the big league schedule. Today is Thursday, April 3rd. Once again, I am your host, Joe Grado. I apologize. My apologies. There may be some pauses throughout the episode as we are battling a little bug. Nevertheless, it's not going to stop us from forging through and talking everything about what went down for the A's up until this point. Let's talk A's baseball. Today is the perfect day to do so as they are off today. They traveled last night, arrived in Denver, Colorado, in preparation for their next series starting on Friday. Nevertheless, we're talking about how it went against those Cubbies. Let's go. All right. Thank you again for tuning in to the newest edition of A's Day. We are going to recap what went down in the series with the Cubs, a three-game series to kick off things at Sutter Health Park. But before we do, we just want to give you a reminder of where you can find all of our content outside of our podcast on our social media accounts, on Instagram at A's Day Baseball Podcast, on X, formerly known as Twitter, at A's Day Baseball, and our YouTube channel is at A's Day Podcast. And for all of you that want to be official subscribers, be sure to check out our Patreon subscription page, patreon.com/A's Day for just $2 a month. You'll be entered to win monthly A's Day t-shirt giveaways, A's autograph memorabilia, future A's game ticket giveaways, and so much more as we're able to grow this platform collaboratively. All right. With that, let's jump into what went down over the course of this three-game series. In game one, the pitching matchup was Ben Brown versus Joey Estes Jr., the battle of the fives. Unfortunately, the Cubbies jumped all over Estes in the first for 4 runs. Ian Happ led off with a walk, followed by a Kyle Tucker double. Seiya Suzuki had a sac fly to bring in the game's first run. And then the power surge began. A 2-run home run from left-handed hitter Michael Busch. And then back-to-back, belly-to-belly with Dansby Swanson with his own home run to center. Before, once all was said and done in the first inning, it was 4-0 Cubs. A's tried climbing back in as shortstop Jacob Wilson, shout out, go Lopes, GCU. He hit his first major league home run, a nice line drive shot to left field to cut the deficit to 4-1. Looked like he was floating around the bases. Then right after that at bat, there was a double from Lawrence Butler. Looked like there was going to be a spark, a little bit of rally. Unfortunately, that was the end of that in that inning. But 4-1 at that point through 3. Head into the fourth, Carson Kelly. It was the Carson Kelly show during game 1. He added a run via a solo home run to make it 5-1 in the fourth. Innings 5 and 6 is when the fireworks really kicked off for the Cubbies. Estes was lifted for Mitch Spence after allowing a leadoff single to left. His final line was 4+ innings, 9 hits allowed, 6 earned, 4 walks, 2 Ks. Mitch Spence just unfortunately could not stop the bleeding at that point. He only lasted 2/3 of an inning. He didn't even get out of the fourth. Allowed 3 hits, 4 runs, 2 of them earned, 1 walk and 2 Ks. Noah Murdock, who made his major league debut up in Seattle, came on and after walking 2 batters, got out of the 5th with a flyout, no further damage. However, Murdock did come back out for the 6th, and he did get 2 outs. He was an out away from another getting out of the inning, keeping the Cubs at bay. However, there was an unfortunate run outburst. He was not so lucky to escape this Cubs lineup so fast. He was pulled with 2 outs in the 6th, and he left completing an inning. allowing 6 earned runs. The Cubs put up 5 in the 5th, 6 in the 6th. They were very consistent there in those middle innings with making it 16-3. That's right. Getting into those football scores, pantheons. No need to keep going here and beating a dead horse. By that score, you can have an idea of how this game went for the green and gold. Cubs tacked on 1 in the 8th and 1 in the 9th to cap an 18-3 result for the Chicago Cubs in game 1 of this series. 18 runs, 21 hits. What an onslaught. That was, I was saying during the preview how deep this Cubs lineup has become and how the roster really seemed to get deep over the offseason, and they really flexed their muscle early. Seiya Suzuki was someone that was kind of struggling a little bit going into this series. I think he started the year going 2 for 21, and just a quick little trip to Sacramento really started to get him going. Kyle Tucker really having a positive influence. And shout out Carson Kelly. We'll get to him in a second. He had a really epic night. He actually ended up hitting for the cycle. So we'll just start with history right away, and then we'll get into just some thoughts about what I saw from the A's during game 1. Carson Kelly cycle. He had a home run in the 4th, single in the 5th, double in the 6th, and triple in the 8th. That's something. I mean, he was the first Cubs player to hit for the cycle since Mark Grace did so in 1993 against the Padres. And he was the first Cubs catcher to hit for the cycle since Randy Hundley did it in 1966 against the Houston Astros. So something that doesn't happen all too often. And what a way to kick off a home slate for the fans in Sacramento. Get to see history, but on the wrong side of it. But shout out to Carson Kelly. It's a really cool moment for him. Some more unfortunate bad history for the A's. The 18 runs allowed were the most by any team in a home opener in the last 100 years. The last time that a team surpassed that was when the St. Louis Browns played against the Cleveland Indians. They allowed 21 runs, and that was all the way back in 1925. Again, a rare occurrence. Unfortunately, the A's were on the wrong side of history there. Let's get to just some quick thoughts that I thought Joey Estes, he really never got settled from the start. It seemed like he wasn't able to establish any of his secondary pitches. His fastball was elevated in the zone. There was concern after the game. I know the manager Mark Kotsay spoke to in the press conference. His average fastball velocity, I do think, was down 2 ticks. Hopefully it's just this is the first start of the year. As he continues to build up more and more, that fastball velocity will tick up to where it needs to be. But nevertheless, I don't care how hard you throw. I don't care who you are, how good, bad, in between. If you're relying on one pitch and there's only one pitch that you can throw for command, it's going to be a tough night, as you saw for Joey. And it's really unfortunate. He won the spring training battle between him and Mitch Spence. Neither of them really pitched well in this one, but it's not the start that he envisioned. And I do think he's going to have a lot of tape to build off of. I think work with more command and maybe just making some tweaks in his pregame warm-up, something like that. Who knows? Everyone's different. But there's just got to be more of a concerted effort to get those secondary pitches going earlier. If that's going to be a constant struggle to be able to find that, it's going to be tough just to rely on the fastball. So just something to keep a note of as we go along here. Nothing to blow out of proportion, but just some things that I noticed in his start. Shout out again, Jacob Wilson. He had his first career Major League home run, line drive to left field. Very cool moment for him. And at the time, it was still a ball game. He'd cut it to a 3-run deficit. Looked like he was floating around the bases. And so now you have that in your toolbox. If you ever have a question in trivia, especially if you're in your local Sacramento bar, who was the first A's player to homer in Sutter Health Park with the Athletics playing professional baseball in Sacramento? Your answer, Jacob Wilson. It's very cool for him. This is that type of game, though. You can wipe it clean. You're just coming off a pretty good interdivision series. You're splitting a 4-game. Come back home. You obviously want to kick off better on a better note in front of your fans. Nevertheless, it's just kind of one of those games you wipe it clean and come back and try to do it all again the following night. And with that, let's get to game 2. This pitching matchup was a battle of aces, Justin Steele versus Luis Severino. It felt like a kind of here we go again with how the first inning started. Ian Happ reached on an error, a throwing error by Max Muncy. Kyle Tucker walked, and then Seiya Suzuki hit a 3-run home run. Before you can blink, 3-0 Cubs. here we go again. But, however, I do think the A's showed more fight in this one. A's answered right back in the bottom of the first. Lawrence Butler led off with a single to the left, followed by a 2-run shot from Brent Rooker, 3-2 after one. Definitely gave some more promise and hope there, the way they responded, and as compared to night one, where it seemed like the Cubs were a locomotive, and if you're on the tracks, get off because they weren't stopping. It was good to see that early response from the A's offense. On to the third, Kyle Tucker hit a home run, his fourth straight game with a homer. Swanson followed that up with an RBI double of his own. At this point, it is 5-2 Cubs. Again, the A's answered the bell. Needed to respond before this one would get out of hand. Rooker led off with a walk, followed with a Shea Langoliers 2-run home run. As A's Day predicted, we got our first home run prediction in the series correct. And just like that, it is 5-4 after 3. We got ourselves a ball game. Cubs made it 6-4 in the fourth on a half sacrifice fly. And then from that point, I feel like both pitchers kind of settled into a little bit of a groove. And you just think like the stadium itself, it's probably going to be difficult for starters. It just seems like some sort of a launching pad. So to be able to settle in and start putting up zeros is definitely crucial to see for the A's pitching staff, but also, Justin Steele to be able to settle into this one too as well. Sebi, hats off to him. Wasn't his best performance, but he really bulldogged through 6, and he ended up saving the pen for later in the year, saving some of those bullets, because while it didn't seem like a big deal, he had gone 5 2/3. He was up over 100 pitches. Manager looked at him. He looked in the dugout. He said, I got this. Got that final out in the 6th. You never know when you're going to need those bullets in the dog days of summer, or if you're in a playoff race at the end of this thing. Having fresh arms as possible. That little difference there, just being that ace mentality. It's something, even in not your best performances. I thought that was huge to shout out for Sebi, because that I think that is not going to be talked or emphasized enough. So really cool to see that out of him. His final line was 6 innings pitched, 6 hits allowed, 5 earned, 3 walks, 6 Ks. Like I said, not the best, but keeps the team in the ball game for sure, nonetheless. Cubs added on an insurance run in the 7th, and with a pinch hit, Justin Turner RBI single up the middle. Now that's 7-4, and that would be your final. So this one was much more of a competitive game for sure. Like I was mentioning, I think Sebi did a good job bulldogging through that one. He had a tough start. It was 3-0 before he can blink. He could have easily imploded, let the emotions get the best of him. Nevertheless, he just went to work and just found a way to keep his team in the ball game. I love the fight in this team. In this game, I do think those 2 responses from the A's shows a lot, even though it didn't show up in the win-loss column. But I think those are traits that are good to establish with your offense for the long term. To know that when in doubt, when down, this team can come back in the blink of an eye and at least have a puncher's chance. So that was good to see against a good quality opponent. The Cubs are good. They're just flat out good. Like I mentioned in the preview and then talked a little bit earlier today, they just have so much depth up and down this roster, and this lineup is cooking. I do think they're leading baseball in runs scored right now, but they do a little bit of everything. They hit for power. They run the bases well. They play pretty good defense, and their pitching staff, all in all, did pretty well this series. So I do think they're one of your more balanced teams. And you can see these are 2 teams in different places in their organizational build right now. I think the Cubs are more built to win now, whereas the A's could surprise some people, but they are built to be good later on, the next 2-3 years, as this young core continues to develop. I think that's what you see at the end of the day, just 2 teams at different points in their development right now. Nevertheless, I thought this was a much more competitive game. It's really tough to be able to perform when you're just chasing a deficit all series. Up until this point, they hadn't had a lead in this series, so it's always going to be tough to be successful when you're constantly punching up. So let's see if they would change the narrative in Game 3, as the pitching matchup was Jameson Taillon against Jeffrey Springs, as the A's played a day game in Sacramento, hoping to avoid the sweep. Again, looked like a here we go, a third time, with a leadoff single to Happ and Suzuki walk. However, Jeffrey Springs, he bared down at this point. He got Kyle Tucker to fly out, and then followed that up with 2 strikeouts, keeping it 0-0 at that point, and it's 0-0 after 1. So the offense was kept at bay, at least in the initial frame. However, in the second innings, the Cubs went to work as Nico Hoerner, led off the walk. Shaw had a walk too as well, and Horner stole third before Carson Kelly had a sacrifice fly himself. And Ian Happ had a single, followed by a Seiya Suzuki 3-run home run. Just like that, it's 4-0 Cubs after 2. RBI single by Matt Shaw in the third. Now 5-0 Cubs. The A's finally answer back. After a Butler walk, 2-run home run for Brent Rooker, his second of the series, third of the year, to cut the deficit to 5-2. 3 more Cubby runs in the fourth as Suzuki hit his second home run of the game, third of the series. RBI hits followed from Horner and Crow Armstrong. Just like that, it's 8-2. This was all off of Mitch Spence. His Springs was done after 3 innings due to a high pitch count. He had 82 pitches, I think, after 3. He went 3 innings pitched, 5 hits, 4 earned, 4 walks, 3 Ks. Not too pretty, but battled. 2 more Cubs runs in the 7th, which would increase the deficit to 10-2, and that would be your final. Cubs win 10-2 and complete the 3-game sweep in Sacramento. So definitely not how we envisioned this series going. I had predicted that the A's were going to win this series. They couldn't even win one. And I think that's just a testament to not knowing how good the Cubs were. Like, I knew on paper that they had the potential to, but I didn't know it would show like that so early. So hats off to them. They were just clearly the superior opponent. And that offense was just feeding off of each other. They just clicked. They were hitting with a lot of slug and hitting to all parts of the field. Can't ask for much more than that. And the pitchers in a launching pad only give up 9 runs in 3 games. So that's going to win a lot of games for you. Let's get to the numbers. The Cubs did end up outscoring the A's 35-9. And this series was kind of the Seiya Suzuki show. So shout out to him. Like I said, was kind of struggling going into this series. Quick little trip to Sutter Health fixes all that for him. He went 7 for 15, 3 home runs, 8 runs batted in. Good for a 1.945 OPS. It's going to be tough to be able to win a lot of games if you're having that much production from one guy. Obviously, it seemed like Nico Horner had a lot of RBI hits. Kyle Tucker was producing, hitting home runs and driving doubles, driving in runs too as well. It seemed like a collective effort. Matt Shaw had some RBI hits. Peter Crow Armstrong. Dansby Swanson too as well. It's hard to stop this attack. So, and it really doesn't help. The A's pitching staff, they fell behind in counts. When you're pitching from behind, you're going to be throwing hitter-friendly pitches in hitter-friendly areas of the strike zone. So definitely was a recipe for disaster, and it reared its ugly head, unfortunately. Sutter Health, it really showed that it is a launching pad. It wasn't even that hot in this past series. When the ball was flying, you can see it. 14.7 runs a game already. We're only 3 games in. And you could just see the ball flying all over the ballpark. It seemed like if we got any sort of launch, it was leaving, or at least going into a gap very quickly. So I'm curious to see what that's going to look like over the course of 162 or 81, I guess. We're playing 81, so still 78 games there. I feel like there's going to be a lot of home runs. So something to keep a note of if you like dingers. They're probably going to be hitting high volume from both clubs. So stay tuned for that. And it really seemed like the Cubs really were in control from inning 1 of game 1. Games 1 and 3 had that. It's kind of over before it started. And that's a shout out to the Cubs attack. Really smothering, not really giving the A's much of an opportunity to fight back in either of those games. Like I mentioned, game 2, they had good fight. They answered twice with 2 2-run home runs. But it's just hard when, pitching staff keeps falling behind. Offensive production was kind of inconsistent too as well. Some poor at-bats, maybe some poor pitch selection at times. But it was just a bad formula that led to this sweep. And it's nothing to be able to dwell on or anything like that. They do drop to 2-5, 3 games under 500. But the good news is, yeah, that's right. They're only 7 games in. There's 155 games left. The season hasn't even really gotten going. So plenty of time to get this thing right. Tough way to start off the home slate in Sacramento. Really good team in the Cubbies. And the way it went down, definitely, I'm sure the players and the coaches have a bad taste in their mouth. I think they're already moved on to preparing to how to wipe that clean and be successful in their trip this weekend in Denver to take on the Rockies. So they never had a lead in the series, so not really. You're not going to expect any wins in that situation. So yeah, so just that's that for the recap. Cubs A's, Cubs dominated. Hope you had, if you're out there in Sacramento and took in an A's game at Sutter Health Park, feel free to share your experience. I heard it was a good viewing experience. I know some unfortunate occurrences happened with the drone. I think the radio feed cut. So they're still ironing out those kinks. But I heard it's a good place to at least see Major League ball players up close, just because it is a little bit more of an intimate environment. So would love to hear some thoughts from you, A's Day and A's fans. Trying to get up there ourselves, maybe Mother's Day weekend, possibly a couple other times this summer too as well, to be able to capture some content at Sutter Health Park and see our A's up close. So stay tuned for all that. All right. That's that. We're not going to dwell on that series any longer. We'll wipe it clean. It was ugly, we know. But like I mentioned, there's plenty of baseball still to go. Haven't lost faith in this team at all. I just do think they need to get their feet planted in the ground and really get running with this season. So the more reps, the better I think this team will be. And I do think they have an opportunity for some success this weekend. And with that, be sure to stay tuned for our Athletics versus Colorado Rockies series preview, which will be out tomorrow, Friday, April 4th, right before first pitch, as the A's are in Denver for a 3-game series to take on those Rockies. I do believe Osvaldo Bido will be getting the ball to halt this 3-game losing streak to kick off the series. With that, let's just mention our 3 stars of this series. My apologies, and we'll actually get out of here. It is tough when it is such a lopsided sweep to really give tons of props, but nevertheless, there were still some good performances worthy of shouting out. Real quick, then we'll get on out of here, wrap this up. So, third star, the one bright spot, you could say, out of the bullpen was right-handed pitcher Tyler Ferguson. He had 2 scoreless appearances in a 3-game series. 2 to third innings pitched, 2 hits allowed, no runs, 2 Ks. I think that was huge, especially in a time where there was runs galore scored. Second star, shortstop Jacob Wilson, who I mentioned he did hit his first Major League home run. Shout out to him. Very excited. Hope it's the first of many to come. He went 5 for 9 with a home run and 2 RBIs in the series. He had a good 3-game series for sure. Our first star, DH Brent Rooker. He went 4 for 12 in the series, but he had 2 home runs, 4 RBIs. And both of those home runs were in situations where the team was clawing back, trying to give him some life. So I do believe that's why he got the first star over Jacob Wilson. But that wraps our 3 stars of this series, which was very tough to watch for the green and gold. But nevertheless, here is to wiping that Cubs series clean and heading back on the road and getting things right. And with that, that's a show. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of A's Day. We are going to be doing recaps and previews all throughout the 2025 season. As a reminder, you can find us on our social media accounts on Instagram at A's Day Baseball Podcast, on X, formerly known as Twitter, at A's Day Baseball, our YouTube channel at A's Day Podcast, and to be an official subscriber, be sure to subscribe on our Patreon site, patreon.com/A's Day. For just $2 a month, you'll be entered to win monthly A's Day t-shirt giveaways, A's autograph memorabilia, future A's game tickets, and so much more as we grow this platform together. Once again, I'm your host, Joe Grado. Thank you so much for your time today on this Thursday. Hope you enjoy the off day and recoup and get ready to watch some more A's baseball over the weekend. Have a good rest of your day, everyone. Holy Toledo, it's baseball season.